Well, literally, as I was just getting ready to upload my video here on Vinyl Me Please, my friend Chance, aka Concert Buddy, sent me a text with some information related to a legal document that has come out regarding them. Now, this was dated April the 9th, and it says, "To the creditors of Offbeat Ventures, LLC, doing business as Vinyl Me Please, please be advised that as of April 4, 2025, Offbeat Ventures, Vinyl Me Please, the assignor, has executed a general assignment for the benefit of its creditors, ABC, they say in quotes, in favor of Vinyl Liquidation, LLC, the assignee." It states that an ABC is a means of concluding the affairs of an insolvent debtor, meaning Vinyl Me Please, as an alternative to a Chapter 7 bankruptcy procedure. In an ABC, the assigner transfers all of its asset to the assignee in trust for liquidation. Net proceeds, if any, are then distributed to creditors who file timely claims as indicated below. And in that, the indication is that proof of claim must be submitted before October 1st, 2025. So if you think that you're owed money by Vinyl Me Please, a claim has to be submitted. And at the end it says, please note that the receipt of this letter does not mean that the assignee, meaning Vinyl Liquidation LLC, agrees that you hold a valid claim in the assignment estate or that sufficient funds will be available to distribute to any creditor. A further report on the status of this assignee liquidation of these assets will follow in approximately 180 days. So, first, you got to be proven to show I have a case for a claim, and then you'll get paid if there's anything to pay you out of. So it's going to be a matter of how this whole liquidation process goes. So this might mean you're going to be seeing VMP inventory records in a lot of different places all of a sudden that they're going to be trying to sell, I think, to get monies to be able to square with their debtors at least to a certain percentage. So everything I've said in the video that's coming now was just prior to receiving this, and it really was an omen that in fact VMP appears to be on the ropes and down for the count. Well, hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. You know, the ascent of vinyl over these past years has been remarkable, and there have been a lot of magazine articles and newspaper articles written about that happening, individuals that are bringing it and making it happen, and companies that are thriving. But lately, we've been seeing some articles that don't bode so well for the vinyl community, at least as it relates to one company. When Vinyl Me Please started, it really seemed like the focus was on Vinyl Me. But today, the focus is more like, please. That's coming up next on the Safe and Sound Texas Audio Excursion. You know, it's tough to make it in business, any business, and the vinyl business is no exception to that. It takes a certain amount of skill, a certain amount of intuitiveness in terms of the market, and the ability to have the connections that are needed to get the job done. And a lot of those aspects were very much present for Vinyl Me Please when it got started. They really took an approach here of an eclectic way of bringing different types of music and new artists and restoring old vinyl versions that hadn't been out in a while and bringing it to customers in a subscription that brought down their price for the record as being part of the club. Now, those of us back in the day remember the Columbia House record clubs and the RCA record clubs, but this one was a little different. The internet is here and things are a bit more pricey. No one is offering 12 records for a penny and then having to go through a subscription for so many titles thereafter. But VMP definitely was onto something, and they were doing well. They had a very loyal following. They were getting some very interesting titles, and things were working out for the company. And that was a great thing to see as far as a model for others potentially, and also just part of the general vibe and groove of what was going on with the resurgence of vinyl. But something happened on the way to paradise. Now, we know in the vinyl community that VMP had announced that it was going to start its own pressing plant in order to be able to control their own destiny, get records out sooner, offer more of them, and keep the churn going in terms of product coming out without relying on third-party pressing plants. Unfortunately, between the time of that announcement and COVID and all of the other things that were going on related to that, things slowed down quite a bit. Getting this pressing plant started in Denver had a lot of issues with it. Now, it started with a bang. They had arranged to get Gary Sahlstrom away from Quality Record Pressings in Salina, Kansas, Chad Kassem's excellent pressing plant, a guy with a lot of plating experience, a lot of manufacturing experience in records, bringing him to start this plant to get it going. And that was all well and good. But it appears that in the background, there were some leaders within VMP who were also working on the project for the pressing plant, who were in fact using more funds from VMP towards this plant than the board was aware of. And so over time, this became evident, and top 3 officials from VMP were let go, were fired. And a lawsuit ensued and is still pending in the courts. And this basically said $200,000 was in fact siphoned off, and the company VMP wasn't aware. Now, I'm not here to assuage the guilt or innocence of anybody. I assume you were innocent until proven guilty. But the bottom line for me is, how does this happen within a company that is, in fact, supposed to be keeping track of its funds, keeping track of what's going on? Maybe too much trust was put there. Maybe too loose of a reins were put there. But whatever it was, it certainly seemed to have an impact on the company's ability to keep delivering product. Now, I can say that their plans, probably their budgets and their planning for releases, was based on having a record plant available and controlling the flow. And when that came to a halt and they then had to go to third-party pressing plants to start to figure out how they were going to meet the demand that they were saying would be needed for future releases, that threw a monkey wrench into the process, the budgeting, and the planning for the company. Now, previous to the plant issues and those type of things, they had a person who was involved in A&R and trying to get artists and bringing product into the flow for VMP, who had an issue with the company and the manner of getting promoted in a manner in which she believed she was promised. And that turned into a different lawsuit. And that one is still in litigation that I can see. Now, that one may have had an earlier death knell in the sense that that then started to dry up the titles and the quality of the titles, and they had to take a different approach with different people to take up that part of the business. And that's an important part of the business because it is really about what product you're going to have and whether the consumer is going to want it. So strike one was that particular situation and recovering from that. Strike two was the pressing plant delays, which definitely impacted their bottom line in terms of profitability and impacted their ability to serve the market in an accelerated way that they had planned. And then beyond that, now strike three, the dollars that came out of the potential plant that now is a plant, Paramount Pressing, and it's independently owned outside of VMP and is doing well, as you can see, just got great write-up. It's kind of like the thing that made it after all, and it was kind of the problem for a while and didn't know if it was going to happen or how it was going to happen. But Dave Rawlings, the artist that brought it up from the dust, who in fact had some ownership initially with Gary Sahlstrom and VMP, was able to resurrect it financially, support it, and now it's doing well, while on the inverse side, VMP is going into the tank. They fired some great customer support people. They're not responsive. They're not refunding. Some are saying that their replies are almost AI-like and not really ones that are coming from people. And it just seems like the drip, drip, drip of this is going to take them out of the market sooner rather than later. Now, I've been on some panels, including Concert Buddies, where we talked about this several times, and the conclusion was, are they going to make it through 2025? And the last time we talked about it, about a month ago, I said I give them maybe till summer. Well, it's almost May. So we're getting to that point. It is unfortunate, and it's hard to believe that the misuse of $200,000 in and of itself sent VMP off the cliff. To me, there's more to it than that. Of course, with those three people let go, they lost a lot of competence and they lost a lot of capability in the market and knowing what to do for the Vinyl Me Please approach that left the gap there. That baby was bigger than the dollars and cents. Who knows? Maybe the board also uncovered more than just the $200,000 and really realized what the financial viability was going forward. Certainly, it doesn't look like the model that they had exists anymore. And what makes it worse is when people are subscribed to something and have an association with it and expect responsiveness, and then they're not getting the responsiveness back, that doesn't bode well for the future of that company. Their inability to come out with any kind of press releases, to give people insight to where they're at and what's going on is also another indicator. So unfortunately, it doesn't seem that VMP is very much longer for this market. Hopefully you can get square with them with what you have coming to you, or you might want to make a decision that you're not going to make any more purchases, which a lot of people are saying online. And I can honestly say I don't blame them. More and more VMP product, ironically, is showing up just in stores, whether it's used or when I was in Colorado, a lot of fresh VMP product was there as well. So we saw that possibly they were trying to offload inventory as part of maybe a strategy as well. But it's all kind of unraveled, and it's unfortunate for sure. I don't wish anybody to fail in business because in vinyl, we're all a community and we try to help each other out. But in this case, it just seems like things have gone too far, and it's hard to see a light at the end of the tunnel that isn't a train heading right for us.
It's a train! It's a train!
So as always, thanks for joining me today. Please share my channel with your vinyl friends. I would appreciate that very much. And if you're not a subscriber, please consider doing so by clicking on the bell. A thumbs up or like is great for the algorithm and helps out, as well as your comments. What are your thoughts? What are your experiences? Where do you think this is headed? As always, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time on the Safe and Sound Texas Audio Excursion. Take care, everybody.